di koneksi teman-teman sekalian ya. Mohon maaf tadi ada sedikit permasalahan teknis di koneksi internet. Balik lagi ya. Kita sebentar lagi, sekarang udah jam 19.59, artinya 1 menit lagi balapan sprint MotoGP Hungaria di sirkuit Balaton Park kembali akan kita lihat ya. Sementara kita balik lagi tadi ya, penggunaannya ban homogen, medium soft dengan Marc Marquez start dari posisi pertama teman-teman sekalian. Wow. Sorry banget karena tadi koneksinya benar-benar putus langsung dari IndiHome-nya. Tiba-tiba putus. Kita lihat ya teman-teman sekalian, balik lagi ya. Ini juga menarik ya, hari ini saya masih melihat bahwa grid start akan dihadirkan 3 pembalap di setiap grid ya. Rencananya malam ini atau misalkan di penghujung dari hari ini itu MotoGP akan mencoba start balapan dengan dua pembalap di masing-masing grid. Jadi di grid pertama itu 2, terus sampai grid kedua 2 pembalap, grid ketiga 2 pembalap. Jadi 2-2 itu nanti akan diuji coba di sini di akhir dari hari Sabtu, rencananya seperti itu. Dan rencananya akan dilakukan kayak begitu untuk menghadirkan start balapan yang jauh lebih ini teman-teman sekalian, rencananya lebih aman, terutama di sirkuit-sirkuit dengan badan trek yang cukup sempit. Nah, kayak gini teman-teman sekalian. Oke, kita akan mulai. Ini udah warming up lap ya, di mana Marc Marquez start dari posisi pertama di balapan 13 lap sprint race MotoGP Hungaria di Balaton Park. Oke, ya teman-teman sekalian ya. Ya, selamat datang dan selamat bergabung buat beberapa teman-teman sekalian yang akhirnya juga ikut bergabung di ini teman-teman sekalian di sesi dari live reaction sprint MotoGP Hungaria 2026. Wah, ada yang jagoin Peko, ada yang jagoin Marc Marquez tuh ya dari beberapa komentar-komentar. Wow, 93. Oke, gaspol. Oke ya, gaspol. Kita akan lihat nih ya. 13 lap ya. Ini menarik nih, Balaton Park adalah bisa dibilang bener-bener track yang berbeda banget dan bener-bener sangat beda dengan sirkuit-sirkuit lainnya, terutama dengan banyaknya chicken di sini. Banyak, dan kalau teman-teman sekalian tahu ya, track limit dari sensornya itu di sini dipasang 3 titik teman-teman sekalian. Gitu. Dan teman-teman sekalian juga bisa lihat ya, dimulai di Balaton Park ini regulasi mengenai masuk ke pit lane itu kembali diratifikasi dan diperbarui dan ditekankan gitu teman-teman sekalian. Kita akan lihat startnya akan kayak gimana nih ya. Bentar lagi pembalap sudah masuk ke dari grid startnya teman-teman sekalian. Yes. Terus kita akan lihat Marc Marquez start dari posisi pertama, semua whole shot udah dinyalain. Terus right head device juga udah diaktifkan teman-teman sekalian. Nunggu lampunya menyala 2 gitu ya. Semua bendera-bendera sudah mulai keluar dari track. Lampu nyala, lampu padam, dan start dimulai teman-teman sekalian. Startnya bagus banget, dilakukan oleh Marc Marquez, lalu diikuti oleh Pedro Acosta memasuki tikungan pertama, atau yang melakukan whole shot adalah Marc Marquez. Ini pelan banget ya tikungan pertama, luar biasa ya, dan langsung chicken teman-teman sekalian ya, dan langsung dari tikungan ke kanan langsung ke tikungan kiri, dan Marc Marquez memimpin sekitar 0,2 detik ya di depan dari Pedro Acosta, diikuti oleh Marco Bezzecchi dan juga Fermin Aldeguer. Jadi ya posisi-posisi depan masih sama teman-teman sekalian. Kita lihat ya, Marc Marquez memang secara statistik ya tahun lalu juga cukup bagus, menang di sini gitu ya teman-teman sekalian. Terus pole position juga di sini. Jadi ya memang luar biasa sih ya. Dan memang Marc Marquez itu datang ke Balaton Park ini dalam kondisi yang menurut dari Ducati, tim manajer dan Davide Torrisi itu bilang memang kondisinya masih belum 100% teman-teman sekalian. Yes, kita akan lihat ya posisinya, dan ini fight-nya benar-benar
see the hairpin, the left-hander of turn 11. Now you build up some momentum, attacking towards the second of our 3 chicanes. This is now into 12 and 13. Acosta not able to find a way through early on here on Marc Marquez, who has made the early running in this sprint. Aldeguer now starts to close in on Bezzecchi. Aldeguer's got to go on with this, because if he's going to try and win this sprint, already you can see Marc Marquez and Acosta are threatening an early break.
The big mover. He was quick on the first lap last weekend. Diogo Moreira once again from 11th on the grid, straight up into the top 6. Martin has now taken Bagnaia. Martin now runs 7th.
Class move that into 15 and 16 from Martin. Marquez that is that leads by just over half a second from Acosta at the end of lap 1 in this sprint. Brilliant first lap by Bezzecchi, 6th to 3rd. Ralph Hernandez had a good first lap as well, coming from 7th. He was over the line in 5th place for Trackhouse Aprilia.
Oh, there's a little bit of a twitch on the front end there for Bezzecchi around that slick first corner. He holds on to that 3rd place. Of course, his championship rival Jorge Martin is some 4 places behind him at this stage, so Bezzecchi in a good position with Aldeguer looking to try and clear him and get off after the top 2.
Hammer down from 93, no question. He's now almost 3/4 of a second clear of Acosta in 2nd place. Aldeguer close on the brakes on Bezzecchi in a 5, but just not close enough to try and pass in the toughest braking zone around this short Balaton Park circuit. Right on board with Bezzecchi's factory of Aprilia. Looking back to the 54 of Aldeguer this weekend, equipped with the new latest spec Ducati GP26 chassis.
Someone was attacking, I think it was Martin. He's got straight across the chicane as Jorge Martin, as he was trying to make a ground. There he is, look, trying to make sure he drops back. Of course, now that you've taken that shortcut, Jorge, you've got to drop a second.
Yeah, they're going to be keeping a close eye on that one in the steward's office, that's for sure. So now up into the top 6 goes Diogo Moreira. What a performance once again by the Brazilian rookie. By far the leading light for Honda. Aldeguer swarming all over the rear tyre, Bezzecchi, but it's so narrow, so one line around Balaton. He just cannot find a way through. Clearly, he has got the upper hand. He's got the better speed right now than Marco Bezzecchi. But at the moment, Bez is a bit of a rolling roadblock. Nothing that Aldeguer can do.
And Bez was slightly wrong-footed through that chicane of 12 and 13, which gave Aldeguer the run out him, but just not a good enough run as we now go down the main straight. This is the best opportunity you've got, but way too far back for Foaming Aldeguer. Marc Marquez, 1:37.901, fastest lap of the sprint. He leads by a second.
He's in a different sprint right now, is Marc Marquez, the only rider in the 37s. He was half a second faster than Acosta on that second lap. And we've got, what, 2 laps of 13 completed here in Balaton, and Marc Marquez is streaking away with it. He's running away with it. He's over a second clear then of Acosta already. This is some fight, isn't it, for the final medal position. And once again, Bezzecchi does get that Aprilia off some of these low gear hairpins really well, because there's just nothing Aldeguer can do to attack him in the braking zones.
Looking at Jorge Martin's lap time, he did a 39.6. I'm not so sure he did drop a full second. He was trying to pass Moreira into that chicane, then goes straight across the runoff area, and he's already looking over to his left-hand side to make sure that he lets Moreira through, but I'm not wholly convinced he did give up the full second.
Well, Aldeguer's got to be patient here. He's going to be getting frustrated. Look at this. I mean, he almost just ploughed into the back of Bezzecchi's factory Aprilia there. He's going to be getting frustrated because he knows he's got a lot better pace. Probably feels like he could be running with a Costa minimum here in the sprint, Foaming Aldeguer, but there's just nothing that he can do to find a way through on Bezzecchi. You have to say he's doing a pretty sterling job of holding back the Spaniard, but that is in every sense of the word, holding back the Spaniard.
Oh, he's now on the left-hand side of the racetrack, but you're on the outside line there by the time you get to 15, Fermin. Of course, Marco Bezzecchi is not going to let this go without an almighty fight. Every World Championship point precious for the 72.
I mean, Aldeguer's pace is a lot quicker than this. It's a lot better than this, but he's just nothing he can do. Can he try and level Bez on the brakes now as they run down to the first corner? Back in the 38s goes Marc Marquez, but once again he's able to stretch another 0.4 of a second over Acosta in 2nd place, just braking as late as he dares, just to make sure that Aldeguer's got no chance of showing his front wheel. Is Bezzecchi? How on earth is Bezzecchi hanging on to this 3rd right now?
He's certainly getting his elbows out. He's certainly riding a wide Aprilia. This is the kind of racetrack which does lend itself to this sort of rear guard action. If you make no mistakes, it is so difficult for the rider behind you to try and find a way through. And again, as you mentioned, Bez gets well off of turn 4, so Aldeguer, without launching one from way too far back and taking a massive risk on the World Championship leader, he can't get through.
Yeah, and that will be a factor at play in Aldeguer's mind. The last thing he wants to do is clean out the World Championship leader. That will be a blot on his copy, but now then, we just wonder as well, having got as close as he was there, whether already Aldeguer's got to have to be thinking that front tire behind Bez, because somehow, how is Fermin Aldeguer still circulating in this sprint? Because he was so close to going down there through the chicane of 9 and 10. I mean, his left tyre, he was in the right-hand part of the chicane, his front tyre was going left. Super save by Aldeguer.
He was always coming straight for us, wasn't he, from our particular vantage point there at the chicane. And that's going to add to the frustration, because now not only has he got one Aprilia ahead of him, he's got two, because Raul Fernandez took advantage of that and he moved up into 4th place. Aldeguer now runs 5th.
That's going to give Bez a much welcome breather. Not that he would know too much about. Look at this from Aldeguer. He was over the inside curve there. He's trying to bite up a little bit of time on the inside curve. He has done awesome there. What a save that is. Superb cat-like reflexes from the number 54. Here is Jorge Martin then closing up once again on no penalty. He did indeed then lose sufficient time for an early attack. Actually, he was on Moreira. Got to do all that hard work all over again. Pecco Bagnaia is now at the bottom end of the point scoring places and struggling. He's in the 39th, is Pecco. He's in 9th place. Marc Marquez is cruising. He is absolutely playing with the opposition in the sprint. 4 laps in, and he's 2 seconds clear of Acosta. It has not even been a contest.
Yeah, he's the one sprinting while the others appear to be at walking pace in this Tissot sprint. 38.0, he's a half second a lap quicker than anybody else. Next fastest rider actually was Bezzecchi. Without the buzzing Aldeguer behind him, he's actually speeding up. Here comes Martin, have a second crack at Diogo Moreira into turn 9. This time he does make the move stick without shortcutting the corner.
Nice, that was nice. Moreira though trying to have a nibble back going through turn 11. Martin knew there if he got ahead of Moreira going into turn 9, the first part of the opening chicane, then just parked it in the second part, there would be absolutely nothing that Moreira could do in terms of a retaliatory move. So that was boxing pretty clever from Jorge Martin. 2 seconds remains the advantage between Marc Marquez and Acosta. Well, we thought there was going to be fireworks. We thought there was going to be a spectacular wheel-to-wheel battle between Marc Marquez and Pedro Acosta. If that is to happen, somehow Marc Marquez is going to have to lose a 2-second lead.
Yeah, he is flexing his muscles. Of course, he's still trying to build up muscle in that right shoulder, but he's certainly flexing them in this sprint as Acosta's finally starting to get himself onto race-leading pace. Personal best for Acosta on a 38.3. He matched Marc Marquez last time around, but the damage already long since done.
Gian Antonio runs in hot into the first corner as he was trying to line up a move potentially on Bagnaia. Once again, failing to really exploit a strong qualifying position is Fabio Di Gianantonio, outside of the point scoring places at the moment in a distant 10th place. Here is your sprint leader. Well, we know how much Marc Marquez loves anti-clockwise tracks. I mean, he was on pole position here last year. He dominated the sprint, he dominated the Grand Prix. I mean, this is once again, it's exhibition stuff, isn't it, as far as Marc goes. Mario Vinales gets an early track limits warning. Vinales way down the order in 20th place. He's just picked off Alex Rins.
Of course, you'd be tempted to think that physically it's not as tough a challenge in the sprint, but of course they are pretty much pushing a qualifying pace in this sprint. So in its own way, it is a physical challenge. So it's clearly going to get tougher the longer this sprint gets for Marc Marquez. But he's got that level of breathing space now with that 2-second lead, and nothing will encourage him if he does start to suffer from some fatigue, quite like seeing a 2-second advantage on his pit board.
I'm getting deja vu here, because when I asked his brother Alex about his chance of repeating his success in Jerez early on this year, on Thursday in the press conference, Alex said, no chance, completely unrealistic, stop dreaming. And then we know, of course, what happened. Alex went on to dominate the Grand Prix. Marc Marquez here on Thursday. What, can you complete another win double here in Hungary, Mark? No, forget it, were his exact words. Well, look at this performance from the world champion. For the first time in this sprint, Pedro Acosta has pretty much got on par with Marc's blistering early pace. They both just exchanged 128.5s. But it looks in terms of the sprint victory battle here, it is game over as far as Acosta goes.
And the fastest rider on track, you can see his lap time on the bottom of your screens, is Raul Fernandez now in 4th place. So that respite that Marco Bezzecchi earned or was given by the moment for Aldeguer down at the chicane of turn 9, that respite might end in about a lap's time.
Aldeguer proved, though, at the start of the sprint, sitting on Marco Bezzecchi's rear tyre is one thing. Trying to force your way through, trying to find a way through on the world champs leader. Well, that's a completely different ball game altogether. So Fernandez is starting to make inroads back to Bezzecchi, but We know that he's going to be cautious. There's been a clear message, hasn't there, from Aprilia management. He's been in hot water already so far this year, I think, Ralph Fernandez, with contact with Jorge Martin over in Barcelona, which I saw Aprilia call a very special summit at pre-Italian Grand Prix last weekend, where all 4 riders were warned in no uncertain terms. We expect you to race hard, we expect you to be aggressive, but we expect you also to race fair, and more crucially, the message was race with respect. So you think that Ralph Fernandez is going to perhaps be a little bit more cautious than Primocello might have been the case.
And Bezzecchi's actually responded too on this lap, keeping that advantage at around 0.8 of a second. We are watching the other factory Aprilia as we now cut back towards Bezzecchi. Moreira's not quite finished with Jorge Martin yet, as Aldeguer puts in a 38.1 in 5th place, just again proving the point at the pace he has if he has some clear track ahead of him.
Quicker than Mark and quicker than Acosta right now is Aldeguer. He will be ruining that little mistake he made early on in that chicane when he was just about to threaten another pass on Bezzecchi. It was still an awesome save. He's done brilliantly well to keep himself in contention in this sprint as Aldeguer. But that is some dynamic pace, isn't it? Clearly, he could have gone away with Acosta, could have even with a better start gone away with Mark at the front of this sprint. That's all ifs, buts, whats and maybes as he now closes on the rear tyre of yet another Aprilia in this sprint.
And the fast starting of that Aprilia is once again proving such a trump card, isn't it? Particularly today for Marco Bezzecchi, because it got him into that 3rd position and gave him the track position to then defend in the latter stages. Dwan Mears dropping down the timing screens, left-hand side of your screens. I don't know if he's lost the 2020 World Champion or if he's made a mistake somewhere. But in the end, of course, started this lap in 13th place. He's now tumbled outside the top 15. In fact, he is still running. He's just lost 3 places.
The factory Hondas are getting a kicking once again, aren't they, from Moreira? At the start of that last lap, Moreira was 3 seconds clear of Luca Marini, who he started 2 places behind in this sprint. He was 4 seconds clear of Mir. That gap has jumped out now after Mir's mistake. He is still running. But Moreira, once again, top Honda dog by some distance so far in this sprint. The 2 Italians, the 2 experienced Italians of Bagnaia and the Gian Antonio, 9th and 10th respectively. Another experienced Italian just ahead of them on the road goes Anea Bastianini. Pretty decent sprint this for the Beast. He's had some work to do, coming from 14th up into 8th.
Yeah, he's leading that 3-way battle, which is now coming towards us. There's Bastianini, here's Bagnaia, and here's Fabio Di Gianantonio behind him. Wasn't a great start for Di Gianantonio, but he was also being overtaken through the first lap and a half or so. It was certainly not just the launch off the line that did the damage for Digia today.
Yeah, Acosta, Bezzecchi, Fernandez, Aldeguer and Martin from 2nd down to 6th all did 38.4s on that last lap, and the upping of the pace here from Martin. He's just on a PB lap of 1:38.483. It's dragging Moreira with him as well. He's just towed Moreira around to a 38.5. Once again, this is just experience. It's going to be like gold for the reigning Moto2 world champion.
So Diogo Moreira at the moment, he's 3.5 seconds ahead of the next Honda on the racetrack. That's Luca Marini in 11th. Of course, Mir with that issue, whatever happened to him to lose those 3 places, he did a 1:40.8 on the last lap. He's back in 16th place. So further kudos and further boosting of what is already a pretty serious reputation that the Diogo Moreira is building in MotoGP.
Nowhere and really suffering at the moment in this sprint is Ayagura, who started it in 10th place, made no significant steps forward at the start, and he's still down in 13th place. He has himself just done a 1:38.5, which is podium pace. The problem is Agura is stuck 11.5 seconds behind your leader Marc Marquez, who is still holding that advantage over Acosta to 2 seconds. That came on about lap 3 or 4, and since that point onwards, Acosta and Marquez once again they exchange the exact same lap time, 38.3 versus 38.3. Quickest rider on circuit is Martin. Impressive. That is some speed at the moment of this sprint from Martin. That's now back-to-back PB laps from the Spaniard. His latest a 1:38.299, which looks like it's finally broken Moreira. He took half a second out Moreira on that last lap.
When Fermin Aldeguer goes to bed this evening and closes his eyes, I feel like he's going to see the rear tyre of an Aprilia when he does, because that's all he's been staring at through this entire sprint. First of all, it was Bezzecchi. Now it's Ralph Fernandez, who is gently catching the points leader. And of course, Aldeguer right behind the 25. And we know how hard it was originally for Aldeguer to pass Bezzecchi. He's now got essentially the same motorcycle to look at, this time with Ralph Fernandez on board.
Masterclass this so far by Marc Marquez, an absolute pure and utter masterclass. As soon as he got the whole shot into that first corner, couple of laps, he was already a second clear of Acosta. Nothing's plain sailing in MotoGP, but next to late Balaton, it's been pretty much plain sailing for the 93. He has been utterly dominant so far. 2.3 seconds now. His lead over Acosta has jumped up to. This is a battle that could go all the way to the checker flag, though, for the bronze medal place, couldn't it? It's not a given here that Bezzecchi's going to hold off Fernandez and Aldeguer, although we saw it early on in this sprint when he was up against Aldeguer. There's nothing wrong with Marco Bezzecchi's defence around Balaton.
For Marco Bezzecchi, who's now getting the instruction, it's Ralph Fernandez, a group of two behind him. I'm pretty sure he'll know who the other one is. He'll expect it to be Fermin Aldeguer right behind him. For Bezzecchi, it's just all about joining the dots now in these final 3 laps. Just hit each braking point, hit each apex. He knows if he doesn't make any mistakes here, it's nigh on impossible for Ralph Fernandez to make it through, even if Ralph Fernandez has got the motivation and the nerve to try and launch an attack on him.
He has been dropped by Martin, but full respect and full credit to Moreira. He is still digging deep. He's still trying to hang in there. He's just on his best lap of the sprint so far, a 1:38.476, which was 600ths of a second slower than that lap 10 from your sprint leader, Marc Marquez. The runaway sprint leader as Bezzecchi gets that Aprilia squirming underneath him as he grabbed a handful of brake into turn 5. Moreira then still 7th, a comfortable 7th, you have to say. He's 1.5 seconds up the road ahead of Bastianini.
Yeah, Costa's very much given up on this one. Not, I think he was left with any choice by Marc Marquez, but he's now doing mid to high 38s. He's gently dropping back towards Marco Bezzecchi in 3rd place, but I guess Bezzecchi knows better than anyone how hard it is to pass here, so it wouldn't be easy for him to pass Acosta even if he gets there. And this is the battle right behind the World Championship leader. Fernandez versus Aldeguer, 4th and 5th.
He hasn't got his hands full enough holding off Aldeguer. Fernandez has just been given a track limits warning, as you saw on screens there. Fermin Aldeguer is going to be sick to the back teeth of the back of Aprilia's, isn't he, in this sprint? He got stuck behind Marco Bezzecchi before there was the miracle save going through 9 and 10, and now it seems like he's stuck behind Ralph Fernandez, who's trying to make his Trackhouse Aprilia as wide as he possibly can.
On to the main straight we go then. 2 laps to go. Marc Marquez, his lead 2.3 seconds. Acosta lost another 10th and a half to Bezzecchi, but it's still 1.2 his advantage for 2nd place. And you can see once again that Aprilia just too good off the corners and not a long enough straight for Aldeguer to do anything about it.
Marc Marquez is indeed in cruise control. He's gone down to a 1:38.7 on that last lap. It's getting a bit heated further down the order. The 3 experienced Italians, Bastianini, Bagnaia and Di Giannantonio, have all just fired in their fastest laps of this sprint so far. Quickest of that trio was the Beast in 8th place. But there's only about, well, there's less than a second covering that 3 as Aldeguer. Again, this is just, yeah, it's just frustration. I mean, he's at the start of the sprint, clearly he was faster than Bezzecchi. But towards the back end of the sprint, it looks like he's had the superior pace over Fernandez, but just getting sucked into this braking zone, into turn 5. Nothing he'd do there would just release the brake and run in a little bit wide. It hasn't cost him track position, so he recovers, and he's still in 5th place. He's dropped ahead of Poy Martin. Well, he lost 1.1 seconds actually in that second split to Martin. He was 1.7 seconds up the road from the 2024 World Champion. That gap now down to just 6/10.
Yeah, Chopper, he won't like the idea of it, but I think it's time to cut his losses now and just focus on tomorrow. 5th place, not exactly a bad result from the front row of the grid, but clearly so much more potential. Just hasn't really been able to exploit it so far in this sprint. We're seeing the battle for the final World Championship point coming towards us. It's an all Ducati battle between Bagnaia and Di Giannantonio, but the master on board the factory Ducati, Marc Marquez, he's now 1 lap away from a 3rd sprint win of the year.
Yeah, sprints have not been his issue in a season where he said for much of it in the early part he was riding with 1.5 arms. He was the sprint winner in Goiânia, he was a sprint winner in Jerez. Nothing wrong with the speed in the short formats, is there, so far this season? The big question will be, can he repeat it over the long 26 laps here tomorrow? Chasing what would be his first Grand Prix success since Misano last year, just before he was crowned 7 times MotoGP World Champion. But you just get a feeling, you just get the impression that this is a shot across the bows of the MotoGP field. This, as Di Giannantonio briefly moves into point scoring place ahead of Bagnaia, this is a statement performance by Marc Marquez. I've not been riding anywhere near my full fitness at the start of the season. I was still able to win sprints. I'm working my way back to my best. and his best here in Balaton has just been too good for anybody else in this sprint.
It's easy to take it for granted because he's done so much winning over his career, but we need to recall and just to recognise what he's been through over the last 9 months or so, and I think he's even surprising himself here, Marc Marquez, with not just the victory but the manner of it. He has completely dominated this sprint, and he's put Pedro Acosta, the pre-sprint favourite, firmly in his place today.
It has been a sprint blitz here in Balaton from Marc Marquez. Through the final chicane he goes. He has been on a different level. What a sprint Saturday it's been here in Balaton for the reigning world champion. Pole position to the sprint victory. What a return to action at 4:93. Brilliant performance on his return last time out in Mugello, but he is back to winning form. He's found the winning formula once again here. Marc Marquez takes the checkered flag first. 1.5 seconds clear of Pedro Acosta, who never got to lay a glove on his Spanish rival, did he, at the front of that sprint. It was managed quite beautifully by Marc Marquez. Gabor Talmashi, 2007 125cc world champion, waves the checkered flag. Marco Bezzecchi, what a defensive mission Bez went into to increase his world championship lead in that sprint. He takes a sprint podium for just the second time in 2026. Rafa Fernandez completes the top four ahead of Fermin Aldeguer, who had a pretty eventful sprint. He takes the checkered flag in fifth from the front row. Points for Martin, brilliant ride by Moreira. Bastianini and Bagnaia score points, but Marc Marquez does indeed once again tie Jorge Martin in terms of all-time sprint wins. 18 now the Spanish duo share, but what a performance by the reigning world champion. That means so much to Marc Marquez. All the lingering doubts once again about, well, how good will he be when he returns to action? Well, he has just shown once again that he is the best rider in the world. Let's not beat around the bush. Let's get some thoughts from the boss, Davide Tardozzi Jack.
As he just chats with Marco Rigamonti, Mark's crew chief, I'm sure offering him some congratulations as well. Davide, you said on the grid that you were just aiming for the podium, hoping Marc would see the checkered flag, but we all knew that we were going to see the Marc Marquez of old today, and that really was the Marc of old.
Yeah, Marc gave us a lot of satisfaction. I think that he did a fantastic race, but you know, I want to see now the podium how he's in the face, because for sure he will be tired, but looking forward to tomorrow.
Can we start mentioning the World Championship word yet?
No. Every race is a training, and we have to take care to his health in this moment, and that's the most important thing.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well, if he's protecting his body, he did awesome to protect that lead throughout that Tissot sprint. It was next level by Marc Marquez. Absolutely brilliant performance. 3 sprint wins already so far this season. Tomorrow will be a different game. It will be a different proposition, but at anti-clockwise tracks, and given his previous record here in Balaton, without any question, he's going to start the main Grand Prix as the favourite. There was the gesture, wasn't there, from Pedro Acosta. Tomorrow's another day. We'll get to fight another day. But the fight in Acosta today was just nowhere near good enough. We were expecting fireworks. We were expecting a special duel between the two Spaniards, and we never got it. We never got close to getting it. It was over, really, on the first sector.
Simply was not fast enough. Whether he would have been enough, even if he'd had the speed to pass Marc Marquez, because we saw how tough that was for Aldeguer further back, we'll never know. But Marc Marquez was just way too quick. I think there's some clear frustration for Fermin Aldeguer. We saw him with a little bit of a slap of the tank, I think, when he came into turn 1 after the checkered flag. Spent all of the sprint staring at the rear tyre of Aprilius, and that's why third on the grid became 5th at the finish.
There are so many positives, though, to take for Aldeguer from today's performance. Front row of the grid and fighting for the podium. Well, you keep knocking him down, but he keeps coming back for more and more and more, doesn't he? The 33-year-old Spaniard, Marc Marquez, who has had so many trials and tribulations from a physical point of view since Jerez 2020. He's been recently under the surgeon's knife once again as we get the big Vamos shout. Come on is the message. Big smiles from Papa Marquez. I wonder if that's brother Alex on the phone back at home in Spain. Yeah, you can see there Papa Marquez congratulating Marc, and I've got to believe that that's Alex on the hotline after a truly stunning performance from brother Marc. Gigi Dell'Igna's all smiles once again. Just top class, top class.
Davide Tardozzi wasn't prepared to talk about the World Championship, but we can up here. Marc Marquez is now from 3 figures to 2 figures off the World Championship lead. The gap was 102 at the start of the day to Marco Bezzecchi. It's now 97. All comebacks have got to start somewhere, I guess. I think it's Gemma, isn't it? Gemma Pinto on the phone there, who's congratulating her man, Marc Marquez, certainly the main man in Hungary today.
He's got a silver medal, but he doesn't exactly look over Anama with it, does he? Pedro Costa. Not what he came for at all. 1.5 seconds he was at the checker flag behind Marc Marquez. He was a lot further back than that one. Great job, though.
He might be the happiest man on the podium today.
Marco Bezzecchi rode his heart out. I mean, he made that Aprilia so wide, didn't he? Came under all kinds of pressure from Fermin Aldeguer initially, and then from Raul Fernandez. That's another very solid performance by Raul Fernandez. Been some sprint week as far as he goes. The winner last weekend in Mugello, fighting fourth out there this afternoon. And it was not easy. He had to do that the hard way. Like Bezzecchi, he recovered 3 places from his grid position in that sprint, as you were as far as Marc Marquez and Pedro Acosta off the line. Well, it's all smiles, it's all relaxed faces, and with very good reason, because Marc Marquez has just finished 8.2 seconds clear of his teammate Pecco Bagnaia, who looks up at the screens and must just be looking at that screen, looking at that result sheet and just going, well, how is he doing it? How is Marc Marquez producing the goods like he is? What a shot to see him win the sprint. He's done it before so far this season. There is still, though, to be a Sunday podium from the reigning world champion. You feel that something's going to have to go spectacularly wrong for him tomorrow to deny him. That's the championship picture. A good day for Bez there. He does pick up 3 points on Jorge Martin. Not a good day at the office at all for, well, not a good afternoon. It was a pretty decent morning for Fabio Di Gianantonio, but he doesn't even trouble the point scoring places. 10th for Digia sees him stay on 134 points. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant once again from Diogo Moreira. Mark our words, trust us, this young kid is going to be fighting for podiums in the second half of this World Championship campaign, because once again he has finished 6 seconds, almost 6 seconds clear of the next Honda. That was Luca Marini in 12th place. We know that there's a late mistake from Juan Mir, but nevertheless Moreira 9 seconds clear of Juan Mir. And we talk about upholding HRC honour right now. That's the reason why Honda picked him up in that LCR project. That is some performance by Moreira. 6.2 seconds away at the checker flag. He increased his World Championship lead by 3 points with a 3rd place here in the Hungarian sprint. Let's get the thoughts of Marco Bezzecchi with Jack.
Well, Marco, sprint podium's been tough to come by this year, but you battled so brilliantly out there. Firstly, fighting off Fermin, then Raul at the end. You must be really pleased in what's been a tough weekend for Aprilia to be on the podium.
Yeah, it was a very tough sprint, very difficult, because the track was pretty strange. The grip at the beginning especially was very low, so it was difficult for me to find the rhythm. Fortunately, the start was good. Then I heard a touch in my back. I don't know what happened, but after that I started to really have troubles with the rear. So very happy with this result. Came with a lot of tough moments. So yeah, now we will work for tomorrow.
Great ride, well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, an important ride you feel in terms of the championship from Marco Bezzecchi. Just a reminder, that is only his 2nd sprint top 3 of the campaign so far. This is him there on the far left of your picture, starting from the back of the 2nd row of the grid in 6th place and taking full advantage of the fast starting of Aprilia. Look, already he's got ahead of Fermin Aldeguer, who started directly ahead of him on the front row of the grid. And that was it. Well, immediately through on Aldeguer on that run down to the 1st corner. Had nothing for Marc Marquez or Pedro Acosta. Look at this, straight away he's through on Digia, he's through on Bagnaia, eventually through on another Ducati on this short run down to the 1st corner. So that was it. Jack Miller's going aggressive on the inside there on the Pramac Yamaha. It was that start and that aggression on the inside of the 1st corner which set up Bez for the podium. 2nd though here in the sprint in Balaton. Pedro Acosta's with Jack.
Well, Pedro, once again, you've given absolutely everything there. Just looks as though in those first couple of laps, Mark just had a little bit too much and was able to manage it from there. Just talk us through from your perspective how the race went.
Yeah, it was amazing the pace that he put from beginning. You know, I take like some laps to be ready for push. But anyway, we have to be happy. Mugello, we cycle a lot. We are back in the podium for this. We have just to try to improve for tomorrow.
Top job, well done.
Thank you, buddy.
And he will, and KTM will try and improve for tomorrow. Can they try and push Marc Marquez? Can they try and pressurise Marc Marquez a little bit more in tomorrow's main Grand Prix? Because it was very much a one-man affair this afternoon. Make no mistake, it was at times a bit of an exhibition, a bit of a parade, wasn't it, by Marc Marquez. Sprint win number 18. He's going to get another gold medal after another golden sprint Saturday. Pole position, now the sprint win in the books. Is there another treble beckoning for our reigning world champion? He wins another Peloton battle here. Marc Marquez then, he is your sprint winner as he acknowledges the crowd in the main grandstand. Let's get his thoughts on a demolition job here in Hungary with Jack.
Well, Mark, another surgery, another comeback, and it all results in another victory. You told us on Thursday to forget about challenging for the win, but surely you must have known that you could have been in the game and that this was possible this weekend.
Yeah, as I say, on Friday I was in eco mode. I was just trying to save some energy. Today in the morning I gave everything because as we show on the race, if you're starting on the front row, it's a big help. And then the strategy was push in the beginning, that is when I'm feeling fresh, and survive in the end. So the strategy works in a better way. Tomorrow will be a longer race. Let's see how we can manage.
Congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
And that is the big question mark. How can he manage the full race distance tomorrow? But awesome job. Awesome performance. We've had 18 previous trebles, pole, sprint and Grand Prix victories across the weekend. Marc Marquez has 8. And he's 2/3 of the way to another one here. That's what a 1.5 second winning margin looks like over Pedro Acosta at the end of that sprint. To be fair, for most of that sprint, the gap was well in excess of 2 seconds. As we get then set for our 8th medal ceremony of Sprint Saturdays in 2026.
Marc Marquez has now stood on the top step in 3 of them. 9 different riders have been on the sprint podium this season. Marc Marquez keeps up what's been a very good Saturday afternoon record. Of course, we're yet to see him on a Sunday afternoon podium this season. But the fitter he gets, the likelier it is that he's going to be spending a lot of time on Sunday podiums this year. Marco Bezzecchi, like I say, he might well be the happiest rider on that sprint podium today. A hard-fought and hard-defended 3rd place to boost his World Championship advantage. Pedro Acosta said, we have to be happy. You don't have to be, Pedro, given the form of the first part of this weekend. Surely he must have been expecting at least to run Mark closer than that. But the world champion doing world champion things here this afternoon. Marc Marquez sprinting clear in the early stages to earn a 3rd gold medal of the season.
Well, last August, right here in the Grand Prix of Hungary at Balaton Park, Marc Marquez completed his 7th successive double victory on his way to a 7th MotoGP world title. There's more double trouble coming the way of the MotoGP opposition. One half of the job is complete. He's fresh out of shoulder and right foot surgery. Marc Marquez once again finds himself with a gold medal wrapped around his neck here on Sprint Saturday. Sprint win number 18, 3 already captured so far this season. Of course, he won 14 sprints on his way for championship in 2025. Pedro Acosta then, as our top 3 celebrate with the medals and the Prosecco. Acosta then 2nd in that sprint. That was his 14th sprint podium. but he would have expected more, particularly given how strong he was in qualifying and in practice. Marco Bezzecchi showing that every point, even at this early stage of the season, is so precious. A real hard fought third place for the World Championship leader, and he got big rewards for the big risk. Hold on to that third spot, 20 points clear then. Now is Bez in the World Championship. Jorge Martin had a good ride, 8th to 6th, but Diego Moreira catching the eyes over. Marc Marquez though wins your Hungarian Grand Prix sprint.
Third of the year for Marc Marquez, and of course first since the surgery on his shoulder and his foot. Marc Marquez comfortably holding off Pedro Acosta, who took second. Marco Bezzecchi, a defensive masterclass in many respects, to take third ahead of Raul Fernandez. Fermin Aldeguer so frustrated behind those Aprilias. Jorge Martin, despite a chicane moment earlier on, recovered for 6th. Moreira a brilliant 7th. Bastianini and Bagnaia taking the final sprint points. Fabio Di Gianantonio and Ayagura both will be regretting their first laps as they finished 10th and 11th. All 22 starters finished today's sprint. So Marco Bezzecchi strengthens his championship advantage still further. He is now 20 points clear of his teammate Jorge Martin. Fabio Di Gianantonio loses some serious ground today, and further 7 points he loses to Bezzecchi in third. Acosta 4th. Raul Fernandez jumps back ahead of his teammate Ayagura for 5th. And Marc Marquez back ahead of his Ducati teammate Pecco Bagnaia for 7th. Aprilia lead the Constructors' Championship now by 25 points as Ducati close the gap this afternoon. And in the Teams' Championship, 3rd and 6th for the Aprilia Racing team today. Their advantage over Superfile Trackhouse is 155. Let's have some highlights then. Marc Marquez from pole position number 76 in his MotoGP career. This and the first 300 meters.